Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the school committee meeting of Monday, September 10th, 2018. First on tonight's agenda is the acceptance of the meeting minutes of August 27th, 2018.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
With modifications, there's a couple
Right.
that we gave modifications done as.
Excellent. All those in favor? That is a vote. Thank you very much. Next up, under communications, we have a couple flyers for distribution to be approved. One for the Rockland Music Boosters and one for the Piano Mill. Dr. Cron, do you have recommendations on these items?
Yeah, I recommend approving the Music Boosters mattress fundraiser. I do have to say, I have some reservations about the Piano Mill flyer. They're an excellent business, and we certainly want to support our local businesses. At the same time, I'm a little bit protective of the staff and the students as a market. So I have some concerns about just simply sending out solicitations to the students through the school. It feels as though we're endorsing or almost recommending that people use their service. So I have apprehensions about that. But again, I think they're a great business, and I know that they've been supportive of the schools in the past. But I do have some reservations about this flyer.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the committee about that?
Make a motion for the mattress fundraiser.
I'll second the mattress.
Do we, all those in favor?
Aye.
That is a vote on the mattress fundraiser. I share your concern about the Piano Mill. The Piano Mill is a wonderful company, and they support Rockland left and right every opportunity they can. They're really one of the good companies. But I think precedent is important, and I think whether it be, no matter how good a company might be, or how much they might do for our town, it's important, I think, for this purpose and this committee to approve communications to our school community, really about community announcements and about things that are relevant to the student population here. And I just think that I wish the Piano Mill luck, but in my opinion, I think I'd be a little bit uncomfortable with opening our school buildings to business advertisements.
Well, I'd make a motion that we just approve this Piano Mill up.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's a vote. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got an audience tonight. Dr. Cron?
Yeah, I would ask that we hold off on the. I would ask that we not hold off yet, that we forge ahead.
We're completely prepared.
Excellent. I'd like to invite Ms. Bond to the podium.
Our 6:34 meeting. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. I'm going to introduce right now two of the coolest people around. Emma Cameron and Sydney Blaney. They were our Mass Maritime reps this summer. We send two kids every July for 3 weeks. They stay down at Mass Maritime and they participate in some great programs, and they're going to tell you in a second what some of their favorite programs were. And I will tell you, for the last couple of years, kids have asked to go back, which is fantastic. And I think two of these young ladies, or one or two, might be thinking about that. Let me tell you a little bit about the two of them. They are consistently, meaning for the last 3 years, they have been high honors. They are both members of the National Junior Honor Society. They are both members of our student government. They are both officers in our National Junior Honor Society, president and secretary. And they are both very involved, according to Ms. Donovan, our school adjustment counselor, in our PBIS initiative. They keep that going for us as far as tallying some of the expectations for our kids. So, every year I come here and tell you it can't get any better than this, and this is as good as it gets. So, Emma Cameron and Sydney Blaney. You guys want to tell just a little bit about one of your favorite activities while you were there? Would you like the microphone?
My favorite activity was learning about the Gumby suits and actually being able to go in the water and do them. It was cool seeing how people survived in the cold water for how long they could with those suits on.
Did you get into a suit?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
We all got to go in and learn all the safety precautions you have to take with them.
Yep. Good job.
One of my favorite activities to do was my improv class. It was great because it was not only acting, but it was also just a bonding of all the kids there, and I met some great people that I'm still in touch with right now. And we had a show at the end, and all the kids laughed, and it was just a great coming together activity.
Very cool.
Great.
Excellent. We have some certificates. Ms. Bond cannot wait to flee the camera.
Nope.
Certificate of Accomplishment. This certifies that Sydney A. Blaney is awarded this certificate for participation in the Advanced Studies and Leadership Summer Program at the Massachusetts Maritime Academy on this 10th day of September 2018. Congratulations. Why don't I give you yours, and then I will give you yours, and then we'll take a picture. How about that? So you can't go away yet, Ms. Blaney. Emra E. Cameron is awarded this certificate for participation in the Advanced Studies and Leadership Summer Program at the Massachusetts Maritime Academy on this 10th day of September 2018. Congratulations. You both make us very, very proud. Anyone want to take a picture? Can hold up here? There we go. Look at that. He's still camera. Great. Thank you. Congratulations.
Oh, wait.
Oh, well, you have to come back. Yeah. I'm sorry. Wait, we'll wait.
Oh, Sydney, you
My
should
bad.
know I wasn't going to let you walk off that podium.
Congratulations to you both. I know it's a great program. We've had students that have gone there before, and they always represent us very well, and I know you both did as well. Tell me about the campus. Did you enjoy the campus being down there, and would you think that you might consider going to the Maritime Academy someday? Or
Yeah, it was actually really cool, like going around. We actually got toured by all our counselors there. They showed us where everything was, and then they gave us freedom to walk around on ourselves on our free time, and it would be a good place to go for college.
Great.
How many kids were there, and did you get a chance to go on the ship?
The ship actually wasn't there.
Wasn't?
It came back on like the last day we were there.
Okay.
So we got to see it come back in, and that was pretty cool. And there were about like 210 kids there.
Really good.
Wow.
I got to go on the ship.
You did?
Yeah, the class that I was taking at that point, we went on the ship and we kind of walked around a little bit. There was actually one point where we got separated and we got lost on the ship.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, to get lost
Yeah,
on there.
the campus was actually really cool, and it wasn't like the biggest campus I've ever seen,
Yeah.
but it was a really good size.
Yeah, it's a nice place.
I will tell you, I've had the privilege of knowing Sydney for quite a few years now. And I saw her on the last day because we were at Worlds, and she came busting through the door and running, talking about 300 miles an hour about how awesome it was and how much fun she had. And then about an hour later, I looked over and she was completely passed out and sleeping on her mother's shoulder because she had fun and a great time. And I had been waiting and so excited for you because I wanted to hear from you when you got back from it, how cool it was, because I knew you were looking forward to it. So it made my day when I saw you that day come back, and I'm excited to see you guys here now too. So I think it's so cool, and I'm glad you guys had a blast. So.
Well, you said there was, what, 210 kids there? Where were they from? They were from all Massachusetts or all other places?
Yeah, a lot of the kids were actually from like around the Cape. Like there weren't a lot of kids from around here. So it'd be cool if we could get more kids to go from around here and get more out there to them.
Okay. So they're sending you back as an ambassador, huh? Yeah, all right.
I was also talking to some of the kids from Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard,
Oh.
and they sent about like 12 kids from both, and I know like we can't do that, but it was just so like cool to see how many kids were coming from different places, and they didn't really stay in one little group of just the kids from Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. They branched out and actually had a great
Okay.
time with other kids too.
All right. So you got all the names and numbers, you know, so that you can go travel to Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. Good. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Congratulations, ladies. Great job. Next up, item 4 on our agenda for this evening is our superintendent's report. Dr. Cron.
Thank you. First on my list for tonight's report, some very good news out of our daycare program and the expansion of some free after-school enrichment activities. I'm going to pass this to Mrs. Hackett.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cron. We're very excited to announce that beginning this fall, the Rockland Public Schools will be offering free after-school enrichment programs at all 3 of our primary schools. Under the leadership of our after-school director, Ms. Baldessari, we'll be offering programs ranging from everything from yoga to Spanish with several exciting enrichment opportunities in between. This has been a long-time goal to bring these programs into the Rockland Public Schools, and it's been made available through possible through the success of the daycare program. And would like to extend our thanks to Ms. Baldessari, the director of the after-school program, Mrs. Tate, the director of the daycare program, and Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Ms. Ferlizzi, for working so hard to make this enrichment goal a reality. And please check your children's supplies. They'll be coming home second week in October with flyers about this.
Oh, good, great news.
Thank you.
So, good.
Yeah, so many of these were programs some students would choose and would pay for. But again, just to reiterate, the success has allowed us to make this free for all students who are attending the program. So
good.
that's always a step in the right direction. Next on my list, I want to thank the Rockland Fire Department and Rockland Police Department for helping us with our start at school, and we got all of our fire drills in at each of the buildings, some of them before we had them planned because they had to go anyway. So, but I want to thank the Rockland Fire Department. They're always very cooperative and proactive in setting up our fire drills, and we appreciate that. I'd also like to thank David Taylor and the Highway Department for striping our crosswalks. It makes a big difference. They get very light as the school year goes on, and we do have many children walking to and from school. So I do ask all of you that are in a hurry in the morning to get to work, just slow down a little bit, please, especially around those crosswalks. We do have students walking. And again, thank you to Dave Taylor and the Highway Department for that. I'd also like to announce that we've completed our paraprofessional negotiations, and we are waiting for them to ratify that on the 26th of September. So I hope at our next school committee meeting to be able to give you that news that it's official. But we had a very good negotiations with the paraprofessional unit, and looking forward to moving on to daycare. And finally, just a building project update. We have our second visioning meeting this Tuesday. That's tomorrow from 3 to 6 in the library. And our next building committee meeting will be this Thursday at 6 p.m. in the library. So we are forging ahead there. And that is all I have for superintendent's report.
Great. Thanks very much, Dr. Cron. Next up, under item 5, our reports. We'll entertain 5 motions for our school newsletters for September for the Eston, Jefferson, and Memorial Park Elementary Schools, as well as the middle school and the high school.
5 motions.
5 seconds.
We have 5 motions and 5 seconds. All those in favor? That is a vote. Thank you very much. Next up, under old business, we have the request for approval of a student field trip to Greece for April 2021. Welcome, Ms. Walsh.
Hi there. Nice.
Hello. How are you all doing tonight?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
Sure. I'm back to talk, like you said, about the 2021 proposed trip to Greece, and I've invited Maggie Lenahan here from EF. She's a partnership manager in the area that South Shore kind of is part of. But I'm going to let her talk about EF in a couple of minutes. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background on our program and my experience working with EF. I traveled as a high school student with EF to France, England, and Italy, and it opened my eyes to the wonders of travel and changed who I was and what my goals for the future were. As soon as I started teaching, I knew I wanted to take my students on tour, and immediately knew I would take EF as the company that would bring us to different places all around the world. We started planning our first trip in 2011 and traveled to Spain and Morocco in 2013. Since then, we've had a trip almost every year and have brought 210 Rockland High students overseas on 6 different trips to 3 different continents. The committee has already approved trips to Eastern Europe for this spring and Australia and New Zealand in the summer of 2020. This will bring our total up to at least 275 students, including our student representative, Jasmine, who's going with us to Europe this spring. They will have the chance to experience new cultures and connect things they learn in their science, English, foreign language, and history classes to their own lives. EF has been wonderful since the start, and I say that from the perspective of a teacher and a traveler. From the very first informational meeting right up to our return home, the community of EF has supported me, my fellow chaperones, the parents of the students, and especially the students, every step of the way. In addition to making sure we have planned the trip we want and believe will be most beneficial to the students, EF makes sure to do everything they can to make the process easier for us. from helping with fundraiser ideas, answering every question from us or from a parent on a phone call. And when something does go wrong before or on tour, they jump into action unlike any other group of people I've ever seen. EF has a wonderful reputation around the world in the student travel and education fields. And between that and their incredible safety and emergency planning record, I feel completely comfortable taking our students abroad with them. While Maggie will speak a little bit more about EF, I wanted to give the basics of our plan that my chaperones and I use to ensure safety and good behavior from the students. We now have an application process, which has really made it more important for students to feel like they're utilizing the time before travel to make the best of the trip that they will eventually take. We meet with students several times before traveling to discuss things like curfew, room checks, safety when on walking tours, cultural sensitivity, open-mindedness, and how to be careful and use the buddy system at all times, but especially during free time. Most importantly, we have our tour director, an EF staff member and tour guide who picks our group up at the airport baggage claim and stays with us all the way through our departure. This person is in contact with all the places we'll be visiting, like restaurants, museums, and hotels. They speak the languages of the countries we visit. They have helpful suggestions and act both as guides and teachers of local cultures so that we as chaperones can focus on the students. In each city we travel, we also have an expert local guide taking us on tours, which provides a new level of an educational experience. I do want to introduce Maggie, who will explain a little bit about the history of EF as well as their support systems around the world, and then we'll both be able to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. So just to back up what Kristen said, a little bit of history on Education First. We've actually been an international education company since 1965, so we've been family-owned since the beginning, are still privately held and family-owned for the last 53 years. And educational tours, like the Rockland trips, is actually only one small part of what we do around the world. We have 44,000 employees around the world, schools and offices in over 53 countries, over 500 schools and offices. We also have schools, including undergraduate education, executive education, MBA programs, foreign language study schools around the world. And then we also have gap year, high school exchange, au pair, the list goes on. So educational tours, again, is just a small part of our larger educational and experiential learning program. But we do believe that allowing students to travel to new cultures, see new places, experience new languages is the best way for them to grow and learn. In terms of our safety measures, I think speaking of our 44,000 employees around the world in every country, that includes Athens, Greece, so where the group will be traveling to. As Kristen mentioned, they also have a tour director with them 24/7. That's with them on the ground in addition to local guides. And we also have a 24/7 emergency service call team. That includes parents, teachers, students on the ground. Anyone that needs to get a hold of EF can reach us at any point, at any time. And that includes people in our Boston office, our Denver office, and our regional office in Athens, and all other regional offices around the world. A little bit more about safety. We have a peace of mind policy. I think this is really important for school districts and parents to know about. What this peace of mind policy entails is that if at any point the group suddenly feels uncomfortable traveling to any of the countries in the next 3 years, we will actually work proactively to adjust the itinerary, to change the destination, to change the travel dates, or provide a future travel voucher for that group in the future or on that upcoming tour. That's something that if the group makes a decision, we'll work with them proactively ahead of time. However, if the U.S. Department of State changes any of the safety levels, we follow their instruction on where we send kids and where we feel comfortable sending them based on the U.S. Department of State safety levels. This is a scale 1 to 4, 1 and 2 being the safest, 3 and 4 being higher risk. So we do not send any of our groups to those 3 or 4 rated countries. One great example of this, actually, as it pertains to this trip, Athens and the islands used to have a portion where they'd actually stop over at a peninsula off of the coast of Turkey. This is something that Celestial Cruises, the cruise ship that the students will be traveling on for 4 days, does still partake in. However, we've worked with the cruise ship specifically to divert all EF travelers, and they actually make a specific stop to a separate island that's still in Greece, just so that the few hundred EF travelers can get off the ship. They have a locally guided tour, the tour directors are with them, and they have a cultural experience on that island, while the ship goes to Turkey, comes back, picks them up, and they continue on their way through the Greece islands. And just to speak a little bit more to the cruise ship, they will be on the boat for about 4 days. The cruise ship has a capacity for 1,200 passengers. This is run by Celestial Cruises, so EF just has a partnership with them. There are about over 400 staff on this cruise ship. So if students do need any medical attention, if they're feeling seasick or anything goes wrong, they can go to the medics or doctors on board. If anything is more serious and they need to escalate the situation, the cruise ship protocol is to divert the route and go to the closest island. And every single island that the students will be traveling to have multiple medical centers and hospitals on each island. So again, if you have any specific questions about the cruise, the itinerary, EF, our safety or educational value, we are accredited just like your school. Kristen and I can open it up for questions about the program.
Thank you. Questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. Last time we were here talking about this is that I've been sitting here listening, and I really appreciate you coming down. It's but I find it is important because we have a new audience all the time to this, to go through this agenda that you have. Not only for new members of the school committee, but also for the families and students that participate in this. Like I said, and you do a super job. I appreciate it. So that's why we asked you to come back and participate in making your presentation, so everybody can hear the same thing at the same time. I appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know Rockland has a really strong partnership with EF, so anything we can do to support that, we're happy to do.
I myself appreciate you coming. I feel more comfortable to vote on this, having her come and answer my questions that we already had sort of discussed what I had wanted to know more about. So I appreciate you coming tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Not to put you on the spot, but what were your questions that you had with her when you talked?
I wanted to know more about the safety and the plan. I wasn't on the committee last time when you all voted, so to me this is new, as if I was a new parent sitting in the audience putting my kid on too. I wanted them to come, and we want to cross our T's and dot our I's, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Just because I don't think anyone yet, I know some of you have younger kids, when we have the parent informational meetings, I do a much more, similar to what Maggie did, PowerPoint and presentation for parents who are showing up to the informational meetings as well. So I'm sure there are some watching tonight, but for instance, if we're approved tonight, we're having our first informational meeting on Wednesday for the Greece trip. And I go through all of that background because some of our parents have sent children already and know the program, and some are brand new to it. So we're happy to do this presentation here from now on. But kind of a combo of what I did and what Maggie did will be done for the parents on Wednesday as well.
Great.
Well, I, for one, am very familiar with what you folks have done in the past, and familiar with the country, actually, and know that this is going to be a great experience for you and the kids that go with you. I think it's a great opportunity. It's one that I would support totally. I don't always support every trip. As some of you may know, I always like them not to be of third world, and this is certainly not of third world. This is a very, very educational and I think an exciting time for these kids.
I agree. Thank you. I agree with everything everyone said, not to be repetitive. And Maggie, thank you again for being here with us tonight. I just think that it's a great, great, great trip. You know, having worked and having approved several of these trips in the past with EF, I've heard so many great things, and just seen, you know, the great work that you guys have done and the great trips that our kids have gone on with you guys, even through times of challenge. You guys have just been absolutely great, highly communicative, certainly deserving of this committee's trust to have our kids travel with you, and we're really excited about it. I, for one, am very excited about approving this trip. And I thank you again for coming down as well. It's something in this committee that had some discussions about, and it's important to us that any time we send our kids, abroad, that we just make sure that we have our community have the opportunity to be here and talk about it out and open, so everyone can hear about it and really hear about the great trip they're about to go on. So, Maggie, Ms. Walsh, thank you. Really appreciate it. And at this point, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
In a second. All those in favor?
Aye, aye.
Great.
Can
Thank
I
you.
make-
Thank you very much, ladies. Appreciate it.
Can I make one suggestion?
Sure.
Moving forward then, why don't we just do this in the beginning?
Right.
So that's,
Well,
yeah,
that's
Then
what we,
that's the goal.
Then the dance of here and then
Correct.
wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it
Yep,
is.
you're right.
So moving forward, let's
That's,
do
I think
this
that's what I said.
day one. So, I don't know, Tom, sometimes I get
Happy
lost.
to invite someone from EF. Go back to my.
Hey, did you allow school committee members to go with us?
there must need to be a chaperone, right?
Yeah. No, no, no.
A second.
Maggie's
okay?
wonderful to come tonight. We have other people in her office in Cambridge that we've worked with a number of times that could also come. And we were happy to do that going forward. I have a role at EF called a Global Education Ambassador. And I travel to other schools to do this presentation sometimes for them in the area and be at parent meetings to answer questions for new teachers. So, I mean, we could talk about it before I present my next trip, depending on their schedule, but I could do this presentation to give more of the background to new families as well. If you want someone from EF here, that's fine, but I feel very comfortable giving you guys the information ahead of time, seeing if anyone has questions about the specific trip in addition to the regular EF safety protocol. Because like Jill said, the cruise was very specific to this trip and it was new to us, and I think there were some really good questions and pieces of information Maggie brought. I can always work with EF to get that information ahead of time. If I plan on pitching our next trip in the spring when we get back from the Eastern Europe trip. So if you want someone here from EF, we can definitely work that out, but I'm happy to do this presentation as well if you're comfortable
Just for
with
me,
that.
it's whether it be EF or whether it be any trip, and no matter how many times we do it.
Right.
And I know you are Kristen, are very capable of doing this presentation, and I know that you do it for others, and for that reason, we're really lucky to have you on this trip, and for many other reasons. But for me, any time that we have any type of foreign travel abroad, I can tell you that I would not vote for a trip if we didn't have a representative from
That's
the
fine, I'll
company
just
here.
know in
Okay,
the
I
future.
feel the
Right.
same way.
Me too.
I agree with Mr. Biggins as well. We love that we have you, but you are us, essentially.
I wanna hear from
And we
Tony
would
from
like to
that.
have EF with us too.
Yep.
So,
Thank
Like
you.
I said, we're happy to be here to support the program, so whatever you need.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks so
Thanks.
much again.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Appreciate it very much. Excellent. Next, under new business, under item 7, item A, our superintendent's evaluation. We're still working a little bit on that, so we're going to look for a motion to table that, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, for tonight.
Motion to table.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That's a vote. Thank you
That's
very
my
much. Next up, item B, we have the 2018 opening of school report. Dr. Cron.
Thank you. At the last meeting, I gave an update about busing, and I kind of explained to folks how that worked. I'd like to, again, very publicly thank Patty Penny for her tireless efforts to make this busing run well. We work with First Student, which is a very, very large bus company, and what it requires is a lot of coordination on this office's end. And I will tell you that Miss Penny has been reporting for work at approximately 6:30 every morning and leaving. She was still in the office when I came down for the start of this meeting. So she is single-handedly doing a lot of this work, and we appreciate that. That said, people in the audience, some folks had been waiting to get off the wait list for busing, and I can report tonight that everyone grades 1K through 8 who are on the wait list have been placed on a bus. We are currently working on placing all of the high school students, and then the final order will be anyone who's outside the 2-mile radius who has requested busing. We're also trying to fit them. So we are moving. Miss Penny is working very, very hard to make everyone happy, and it's a very difficult job.
Very
Yes.
Doctor, how is the cooperation from First Student? I know sometimes we've run into situations where they're not as cooperative as Mrs. Penny is.
I don't know if I'd call it cooperative. I question their capacity, and I hate to say anything negative publicly about a company. The fact is they're the only company that's bid on our busing contracts for the past two contracts that I know of.
Yeah.
And I also know that other districts in the area have found that to be the same. I've raised concerns with my colleagues, and I believe the same concerns have been raised with legislatures, that there's not the proper degree of competition allowed for in this transportation market. And so I will tell you that there are times when we are very unhappy with our service from First Student. But I do have the Senior Vice President for the region on my speed dial, and he came down and visited us with us last year, and I do feel that we are being heard. I just question their capacity.
This is a concern that we've all had, and I know a lot of other communities have with their busing in other communities. And I know that you mentioned that you are working with, and others are working with our legislatures to discuss this a little bit. And I might suggest that this committee have a letter written to our appropriate legislatures to share our concerns.
Sure.
And I would think, I know that it's a bidding process, but it also requires some professionalism on the part of First Student. And if in fact they're not meeting up with their responsibilities to us, there are other companies out there that offer fine service for schools.
Yeah.
There are several that I could name. So I think in the future, maybe First Student needs to hear this.
Yeah, they won't bid, Mr. Phelps.
They won't?
They won't put in a bid, and again, it's a lot of speculation, but these smaller companies are afraid to bid
Really?
for whatever reason.
Why are
And-
they afraid to bid?
I think they're afraid of some sort of retaliation on the part of such a large company.
Oh, isn't
First-
that wonderful?
Well, and
That's why I suggest
and
that we
again,
write some letters to our
I don't
legislators.
like to work in speculation, but this is something that is fairly well known amongst my colleagues.
So
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
What did the vice president say when he found out that Patty and one of the bus drivers had to do all our routes because First Student did not do our routes
Well,
like
that's
they
a-
were supposed to?
Yeah, that's a complicated part of the whole scenario, is how to make the routes, and there's a program called Versatran, and so they've been very busy working on Versatran, whereas we've been busy making sure that kids were getting on the right buses. So they've had some turnover in their local lot in Abington. I think I know for a fact that their dispatcher was non-existent, that the person who runs the lot had to do the dispatching. So again, I don't like to speak ill of any company, and the gentleman who came down to see us from the lot was very cordial, but I just question their capacity to do a good job on our behalf. And I think a lot of it does fall to Ms. Penny and folks in my office, including Mrs. Lamb, who help with this coordination. And it's very, very frustrating because I believe we spend $650,000 or something a year. So
When
it's
was
very
the last time
frustrating.
in the bidding process that we received a competing bid against?
At least two.
The last two,
Yeah,
there have
last
been
two,
no
no
bids.
bids.
In fact, we've gone after companies and asked them to bid.
So we spend upwards of $600,000 on buses.
More.
Almost
Yeah,
700,000.
Almost 7.
I'll look at you, Jane, on this one. What's our take? Why are we subbing this out? Wouldn't we be better off if we're already spending that money?
Well, the math, to give you a quick answer to that, we can do a cost-benefit analysis to owning our own buses and leasing our own buses. I do know that some districts do it. I think for a district our size, the answer tends to be that it's not financially feasible.
We also offer more than what's required by law, so we could, in theory, scale back to what's minimally required by law and go that route. I mean, we're not,
True. If
we're
you're
not
going into-
50-mile radius here.
Yeah.
We are busing more than we need to be.
Right. We're also busing, we bus in some areas for attendance purposes, quite honestly. We worry about kids walking through busy, areas.
Agreed.
We worry about students getting to school, period.
If it was up to me,
So-
we'd be busing more kids there.
I was
than
gonna
we
say
are.
the same thing.
I think
Yeah,
that,
Great.
easier.
I grew up on Turner Road. We were bused.
Yeah.
It was safe that way. I think
And
our goal is
remember,
to get our kids here safely.
We're taking in, I don't remember the figures off the top of my head, but we are paying the lion's share of this bus bill. And we do it, as a service, and because, again, philosophically, we believe we want the kids here and we want them here
Right.
safe. But there's no doubt, Mr. Garofalo, that there are a million questions that we have about first student, number one, and their ability to service our not only our day issues, but if I brought Mr. Graziano in here to talk about the athletics, he'd probably have you all in tears by the time he was done, because that it's very difficult when your team is waiting for a bus and they don't show up, or they go to the wrong place, or so. It's an ongoing frustration, but again, I think the big story here is that if it weren't for the single efforts of people in our office owning this, we would have a very difficult time with busing, and our drivers are outstanding, is another part of it. Our drivers who work for us are outstanding, and they help to make this work. So
I think the important thing to point out is the environment that we're operating right now just is the environment that we're operating right now. And the folks that we have here on the ground in Rockland are doing a great job despite some challenges that they do have, including the bus drivers. So to digress from where we started, I think your original point was that Ms. Penny's really working hard, and really doing a good job.
She's doing an amazing
in fact, when
job.
we just left, come over here to the meeting tonight, she's still over there working.
Yep.
So good. And everything else as far as opening of school. Go ahead, please.
Comment on that? Now, the state law requires us to bus anybody greater than 2 miles.
correct.
And we do more than that, right?
Kindergarten, too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because, and you can, I can see why, because, you know, it's a semi-rural, you know, we don't have a lot of sidewalks out beyond
Right.
2 miles
Yeah.
from here, and it's a difficult task to, you know, and then having that many more vehicles coming into our area here would also disrupt the, you know, the timing of the schools.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's worth our while to be proactive in this.
I agree.
I would suggest that maybe the bus company ought to know that they are starting to get the interest of the school committee as well, in the way that they're handling things.
They've heard that.
And not just, they have? Okay.
They,
Yeah.
they heard it personally because of my bus stop issue last week.
But
Well, they didn't
we
hear
will
from
draft a
me.
letter.
So
Do you want me to
Please,
draft?
yes, please.
I'll
Yes,
draft
please.
a letter on
Please.
behalf of the school
Please.
committee, and we can circulate it, and you guys certainly, and
Good.
Excellent.
folks
Yeah,
can
thank you.
certainly, okay?
And if there's anything more that you need us to do,
Appreciate that.
please reach out.
Yeah. Also, opening of schools report, it was hot. It was very hot. And,
noticed?
yeah,
Yes,
and,
it was.
and I want to commend the students and the teachers and the administrators for doing what they needed to do to make things work. Sometimes they held recess in, as in the case of Memorial Park, you're dealing with primarily concrete. They had recess indoors, whereas at the Eston School, they found ways to do things outdoors, but in the shade. But they just did a great job, and the kids were happy and engaged, and I was very proud of everyone for weathering the heat the way they did. The other thing that really jumped out at us this year, amongst the conversations with the rest of the administration, is the effects of PBIS, and we're really seeing it throughout the district, but it was very noticeable at the middle school, who commented on the incoming 5th grade. So here you have a 5th grade, remember, coming from 3 different buildings, and no matter how similar we try to make them, there are differences. And Ms. Bond and her staff have commented that the 5th graders just came in and were very well prepared for meeting a whole new group of people. And they're just impressed and convinced that it has a lot to do with PBIS and the work that's being done district-wide. So I think that's notable. Also, to a reminder at the start of the school year that we are rolling out some new curriculum in the elementary school. So there's a new writing program. It began last year, but it's still new this year, being a writer and making meaning. So these are new programs that are rolling out. Also, a reminder that our STEAM curriculum has expanded with the addition of a second technology teacher. So now all students, grades K through 4, are receiving a weekly class in STEAM. So creative design, problem solving, pre-engineering, coding, and computer science. We've now been able to expand that down to kindergarten. So thank you to the school committee for advocating for a budget that allows that. But also thank you to Lisa Ryan and her steadfast efforts in this direction. I think she's just continues to be phenomenal for us. And also our new science program, which we owe a great deal of thanks to the Foundation for Education for funding last year. But as I'm sure they will be happy to know, we have picked that up, and that is something that is now being implemented in grades 3, 4, and 5, and that will be taking place throughout the school year, as opposed to, we did a week of science last year, which was a creative way to do it, but I think the teachers are happy to know it's a part of our regular school day now. So we're very proud of that. And other than that, that's all I have for opening of schools. Very
Excellent.
smooth. And my last thing is, I ended my admin meeting this morning by saying, you know, when I'm asked how's it going and schools opened well, I want them to know that the first thing that comes to my mind is it's not an accident. A smooth opening is not an accident.
Right.
And there was a lot of work and a lot of effort that went in, not just on the part of our principals and assistant principals and those who hire, but many, many people to make the start of school smooth. So yes, it was a very smooth opening, but it was not an accident, and we have a lot of great people working very hard. So I thank them for that.
Yeah.
Along with the janitorial and the maintenance
No
staff.
doubt
who
about it.
make it all happen, really.
Absolutely.
Every year after year after year, I go to see what they've accomplished, and it's truly remarkable.
Yeah.
Compared to other districts that you can walk into, the buildings are newer, much more modern, but they're no way as well kept as our schools. They do
Yeah.
a remarkable
Great
job
job.
with what they have to work with.
Absolutely.
And I did participate in the school opening at Memorial Park, and it was well organized. There was no confusion. The kids all
Yep.
showed up, and they just got involved.
They were ready to
right
go.
away. Yep, they were all ready to go.
High level of preparedness, and certainly everybody from the top down, this committee,
job.
they deserve our thanks. So well done by everybody. We'll look forward to continuing on with this great school year. Next up, under new business, we have under item C, preliminary enrollment numbers. Dr. Cron.
Excellent. So you all have these numbers in your packets, but I'll just share with the public just briefly. Memorial Park has a total enrollment of 291 students this year. Compared to last year in the spring, we were at 284. The Eston School has 336 students enrolled at this time, and in the spring of last year, we're at 327. The Jefferson School is at 267 students. Last year in the spring, they were at 286 students, a slight decrease just for the Jefferson. Rogers Middle School, they are at 705 students, which is their largest enrollment in a while. They were at 664 in the spring of last year. Rockland High School is at 565 students. In the spring, they were at 592. And one thing that I'm very pleased with is our school choice. We have 81 students enrolled in the Rockland Public Schools this year from other districts, and that is up from 62 school choice students as of the spring. So total, we are up 50 students from last year. We are at 2,265 students as compared to the spring of last year, where we were at 2,215. And I remember being told this by other superintendents when I was first starting in this position, and I had a difficult time getting excited about it, but they just kept saying how important enrollment is. Enrollment, enrollment, enrollment. So I do keep an eye on it, and I'm very pleased that we're up 50 students this year, and I think it speaks to the work that's going on in the district, and so I'm very, very happy with that. Our kindergarten numbers are, we have 185 students enrolled in kindergarten this year. That's an excellent number, and again, just pleased that our enrollment is up.
Outstanding news.
What was last year's enrollment for kindergarten?
Let me see. I could tell you this. We had 109, 100 and I'm going to test my math skills.
No, that's all right.
Grade 1 has 165.
165.
right now.
We had 165 students, so we were up 20 kindergartners this year.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good indication.
Question, Doctor, on Memorial Park in Eston, on grade 2. Grade 2, we have 4 teachers with 67 kids. In grade 3, we have 3 teachers with 67 kids.
So I'm looking at Eston, I see 4 with
Memorial.
67.
Yeah,
And then
grade,
Memorial Park.
Memorial Park,
That's
I'm
the same
sorry,
number
is
with only
3
three.
with 67.
Right. Well, it's hard to, again, when we're talking about the one school solution,
Yeah.
sometimes we with a one school solution, we'd have the luxury of balancing out class sizes.
Uh-huh.
I think it becomes difficult.
Is that what it is? It was squeezed for space?
Well, you're
basically?
squeezed, you've got your desire to be in your own community, right? So when
Eston's the biggest school,
when we
so-
get a bubble like that, you know, we have to figure out. But they have larger class size in grade 2.
Well,
No
you're
doubt
right,
about
though, one school scenario would solve all of
Would
this.
solve
It's a
that,
good thing, yeah.
absolutely.
Solve that along with a whole lot of other stuff.
Yep.
So we'll
Yep.
continue to talk about the
Yeah,
benefits
good
of
question,
that,
though, Mr. Phelps.
without a doubt.
School choice. Up 19, where are we seeing the communities that are choosing us?
I'd say Weymouth, Brockton,
So it's-
Abington, primarily.
Our neighbors.
Our neighbors,
Yeah.
yeah, our neighbors. And it's not a knock on their school district. We have choice kids at their schools as well. And I think there's always a story, there's a reason behind it. I think some of the students, I hope to see a continued increase because we are drawing neighbors for kindergarten because we have free full-day kindergarten.
Right.
And folks are choosing to stay because they like the Rockland Public Schools. So I hope that we can keep, you know,
Well, I think obviously enrollment's a huge help financially to a district.
Yeah.
But also, I think, to your point, I think it's also a bit of a small sign and a litmus test at the success of your district. So it's good to see our numbers moving in the right direction, and hopefully they'll continue to do so down the road in the future.
absolutely.
And it's being done in the right way. I know I sing this song every year, but there are communities that bring their kids in because they're great soccer players, or they're great football players. This isn't the case here. Not that I'd love to get one. If they,
Right, we'll take
but,
them.
but the point
take 'em.
is, this is being
There'll be a
done
sign out
basically,
front
I
tomorrow.
believe, for academic reasons,
Absolutely.
which I think
Right.
is solid.
And social. a
Yeah,
lot of
social
times,
as
yeah.
well, sure.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
We're small, we're very attractive. I think we're a very attractive school district.
I agree.
Perfect size high school. The students get individualized attention.
This stuff here that we did earlier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so,
more dogs.
yeah, absolutely. And
That's right.
That's right.
You got it.
Some of us never leave.
That's right.
So next up on tonight's agenda, we have some fundraisers for approval. We've got quite a bit. We've got, the high school has 9. The Service Learning Club has 7 of the 9. They will be doing a dining night out in December, so bracelet sales, Hilliard's Chocolate, Savers fundraiser, Dining for a Cause, Chipotle night, 99 restaurant night, T-shirt, oh, I'm sorry, that's for the Service Learning Club. And then the class of 2020 has a T-shirt night and a Chipotle night. So we're looking for 9 motions for the
9
Rockland High
motions.
School. 9 seconds, anyone?
That's it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That is a
So
vote.
Chipotle's getting hit twice in October. Oh, boy.
Next up, Memorial Park. The PAC has 4 fundraisers. One is Name That Circle, one is Turkey Feather, one is Raffles, and one is the Fun Run. We have 4 motions.
4 motions, 4 seconds.
4 seconds. All those in favor?
Interested
That is a
in
vote.
turkey
Thank you.
feathers.
The Rogers Middle School has 7. The PAC is going to be having a fundraiser for a 10K raffle, Little Caesars pizza sale, book fair, Scripps gift cards, basket raffle, and the always famous Shamrock Classic, and Hilliard's candy. So we'll be looking for 7 motions on that
7 motions.
in 7 seconds. We have 7 seconds. All those in favor? That's a vote.
Aston's
Last
a little
but
back.
certainly not least, the Eston PAC has a volleyball ball game in October.
One motion.
And we have a second. All those in favor?
All right.
That's a vote. Thank you. Next up, we get to meet our new high school student committee representative. It's a wonderful young lady by the name of Jasmine Morse. Jasmine, welcome. We look forward to having you with us.
So excited to be here.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for us and for you. It's a good opportunity for us to have you here to keep us up to date on what's happening at the high school, to tell us if there's any concerns that the high school student body or that your class might have. The fact that your student body's chosen you to be here is certainly a kudos to you and congratulations. But it's an important job as well. There has been times in the past where student representatives have brought important issues to this committee, and we've had some important dialogues about it. So you're going to be a great asset to your fellow students. But for us, it also, if we have questions for you, we're able to ask them. So why don't you take a minute and maybe tell the committee a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm very excited to be here, not only for you guys, but for the student body as well. I'm also part of the Veritas. I'm the editor-in-chief and web editor, so it's a great asset for me being here, having a little bit more extra information about the town and the schools. So I'm glad to be able to come and bring the school information in here and give it out to the students as well. I'm also part of National Honor Society and the treasurer of that, along with being a part of the Veritas, mock trial, and I'm in the Student Government Council. I am the Finance and Fundraising Committee Chair as well. And part of travel club, as we were talking about earlier today.
You're a busy young lady.
Yeah.
Good for you, good for you. Well, at any time during our meetings, when you're here on Monday nights, please feel free of any of the discussion topics that we're talking about, of anything on our agendas, please feel free to ask any questions about it. We also ask that when you come to the meetings, at the conclusion of the meetings, we all have public comments, and we're going to invite you to have public comments. So if there's any announcements about things that are going on at the high school, or anything important that you want to highlight to our community, you can feel welcome to do that at that time.
Sure.
So thank you. Welcome being here with us.
Glad to be here.
Great. Thank you, Jasmine.
I have a question for you. How do you think school started this year?
School started, I think it's pretty great, honestly. Aside from the heat, I mean, there was a few times where we had to change our classrooms and go to the library, but aside from that, it was a great opening.
Okay.
Excited for the senior year. It's going to be a good one.
All right. Congratulations. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Next up, item F under new business is the payroll process. About a year ago, a little over a year ago, we began between this committee and the Board of Selectmen the process of reviewing some best practices in the areas of payroll. There has been a lot of change and a lot of progress and a lot of communication and a lot of cooperation towards being able to make a smooth best practices protocol for our school's payroll. Between the folks that are here in the business office, Jane, Dr. Cron, Colleen is for Lizzie, our town treasurer, Mr. Ellard, everyone's really working together very, very well right now. And it is this committee member's opinion that the draft resolution that we had begun working on and begun setting procedures on paper really isn't necessary anymore, based upon the personnel that has changed and based upon the best practices that have been instituted. So before we even begin discussion, I just want to compliment everyone here at the school department and everyone at Town Hall, and thank you, the members of the Board of Selectmen, for their cooperation on this over the course of the past year. But really, most of all, I'm happy to report that everything's going great. So I'm glad to hear that. Any other comments or questions about the payroll process from the committee?
I'm in total agreement with you. I think, as you say, a lot has changed, and a lot for the good. In both areas, both the schools and the town government. And I would agree. I don't see any need of continuing what we were doing back in the spring.
Yeah, I agree too. Yeah, all of the latest. I mean, you don't hear anything, any negativity going on, and and that the process seems to be working well, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. So what we'll be looking to do is to entertain a motion to rescind the draft payroll process procedures document that our two committees had begun work on.
Motion to rescind.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That is a vote. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Last but not least.
I thank the selectmen too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Last but not least, we do have our public service announcements, and we always like to be gentlemen and invite the ladies first. So, Ms. Morse, we can invite you if you have anything to say or anything to announce tonight.
No, I'm just excited to be here.
Great.
Can't wait to hear all the town information and give you some feedback from the schools.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and welcome again.
Looking forward to that.
Mrs. Maroney.
I have a little bit to say. I was 5 years on the PAC at Memorial Park, so I wanted to, as a school committee member, continue that communication with the PACs. So I reached out to the PACs and just said, here I am, I get a public service announcement at the end of each school committee meeting, and if there's something you want me to say, then let me have it. So Jefferson PAC wanted me to say the Booster-thon Fun Run is Friday, September 28th during the school day. The PAC will be looking for volunteers to help that day, and your students will be looking for sponsors. Memorial Park, first Jefferson was Nicole O'Brien. Memorial Park was Jamie Hennessy. We'll be doing a fun run as well on Wednesday, September 19th during the school day. The students will be looking for sponsors, and maybe a local company would be interested in matching a classroom total. The PAC will also be hosting a movie night on Friday, September 21st at MP, for MP families, and they also have a new group email. It's MPPAC, and then at rocklandschools.org. I spoke with Nancy Anderson with RMS, and they have the Little Caesars Pizza fundraiser starting September 12th that we just approved tonight, and it runs through October 16th. And then I spoke with Ashley Cutter with the preschool PAC. They are having an Otis Spunkmeyer cookie fundraiser to support music and winter activities, and the flyer went home last Wednesday, and that ends on the 28th. So I'm happy that they were able to keep me involved.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Maroney.
You're welcome, Mr.
Mr. Mills.
Biggins.
Yes. Yesterday, I participated in a ceremony that the pastor of the Holy Family Church, Father James Hickey, was in May 29th to be exact, was celebrated 50 years as a priest in the Archdiocese of Boston. And 28 of those years have been here in Rockland at Holy Family. It was really enjoyable, and I like to congratulate him and thank him for all this fine work that he's done here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well said, Tom.
Okay.
Mr. Phelps.
Yeah, I would echo that, Tom. Father Jim Hickey is an extraordinary man.
He is.
Extraordinary man. He's done so much for this community. I wish him all the well that could come his way because he deserves it. No, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has reached out to myself over the last couple of months. It's been, you might say, a little bit challenging. And I would say that, that in reference to maybe Mr. Biggins, it's a lot nicer to be seen than viewed. And that was a close call a couple of times there for me. But anyway, along with that, sports are up and about and going strong. We've got a lot of good coaching going on here. We're fortunate to have them. I would ask the townspeople to get invigorated in going out and watching these kids perform. They do a phenomenal job, whether it be soccer or football, or there's so many sports that we're involved in. If they have any questions, they could call the Mr. Graziano, who's our athletic director, and get schedules or whatever they need so that they can get involved in viewing some of these things. As an old friend of mine, Bill Wilhelm at WATD, used to say, it's the best $5 you can spend, and it truly is.
Oh, Billy.
So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Mr. Garofalo.
Yes. I did a little math this morning, and I came to a realization that we have now officially entered the school year that most of the population of the school systems were not born when 9/11 happened, which was 17 years ago tomorrow. And I think it's important to us as people and as a country to never forget that and to impress upon the younger generation what happened after that and how we as people rallied around each other to be kind and to be supportive and not bullying people online or, ignoring people or making fun of people. It was a time that everybody rallied with each other. You didn't know the person sitting next to you in your college class that when you were watching the towers fall, and yet there you were with your arms around them as everybody's crying, and you're all friends and you're all supportive. And lately, I feel like there's too much of the other nonsense and not enough of what makes us humans. And I would like to think that tomorrow, maybe we can start heading back in the correct direction and none of this nonsense that's going on right now. So that's all I have.
As she said.
Thank you, Mr. Garofalo. So I had 3 points tonight, and each of my 3 points were touched on by my fellow committee members, but I would like to talk about them in my own little way. The first is just how grateful and thankful that I am to have my colleague and friend, Mr. Phelps, back here with us tonight. It was a bit of a scare when I heard a little bit that you had a little challenges going on, and a lot of times when things happen that scare you, you sit back and reflect. And this committee and the school system has been very, very lucky to have Dick Phelps advocating for it for a very, very long time, and I hope that it will be for a very, very long time to come. I'm very pleased to have you back, my friend. Okay. Secondly, I also wanted to comment on Father Hickey. 50 years is an amazing, amazing, amazing amount of time for an amazing man that's done just so much for so many people. And I can tell you on a personal level, he's just done so much for me personally. I've been through a lot in the last few years, and Father Hickey has been there for me at every single turn, and he's like that for every single person in this town. I've worked with him professionally in my role as a funeral director over the past 20 years. What's always been remarkable about Father Hickey to me is on the funerals that we have where their church might be filled without a space to sit, Father Hickey does give the exact same amount of passion and attention to a church that might have 2 or 3 people in it. He's a man who truly walks the walk. I don't know too many people that have the amount of respect and integrity that a man like him does, and Rockland is just such a lucky town to have a guy like that. and another guy that I hope we have for a very long time to come. And my third and last point is that, yes, tomorrow is September 11th. It is important very much to remember, I think, to remember a lot of things. I had the opportunity in 2001, shortly after the attacks, to be in New York, to be able to volunteer with the state's medical examiner's office to work identifying deceased members and casualties of the event. The level of respect and love and bravery and take care of each other that existed in New York, I believe still does exist today. You just don't hear about it quite as much. I think September 11th is an important time for us all to take stock and to appreciate our members of service, our police, our fire, and our military that are there for us when tragic events like September 11th happen without a question. And of course for our military to be there to protect us in the event that such a thing happens. I know tomorrow is going to be a somber day for me, and not many minutes will pass that I'm not thinking about that day all those years ago. So with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn for the evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? That is a vote. Thank you very much, and good night, and God bless America.
I worked in New York.